From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
There's a lot of big warning signals in advance of the $14 third stimulus check landing your bank account that are hitting Wall Street this morning, and the numbers are not particularly good. Is a Wall Street crash around the corner in advance of you receiving your $14 stimulus check? The 10-year Treasury note not under control. Bitcoin surging, equities, and especially the tech sector, down sharply in overnight trading. What's going on, and does the White House have control about this? And what did the Treasury Secretary say minutes ago to keep this in control? And is the Federal Reserve about to take action as well? We have the big financial news that could be impacting your stimulus going forward, as fourth stimulus is revealed in a series of new interviews this morning. But will there be reoccurring stimulus checks? Will there be FPUC retro? And more importantly, will the markets become unstable before that stimulus even arrives? I have all the breaking financial news from Wall Street starting right now. This is the current chart for Bitcoin this morning. If you're looking at the chart, it's surging in the last few days. If you look at the bottom right corner, you see a red line surging up. That's the volatility. That shows the amount of volatility getting into Bitcoin before the start of the month of March. That was when when Bitcoin pulled back. You see when it ebbed downward, the trading surged. As the trading surged, so did the price. But in just the last few hours, just overnight, Bitcoin has gone through the roof. You see minutes ago, it continued to surge even more. This is a live chart of Bitcoin this morning. What is happening, and why is Bitcoin surging while the 10-year Treasury note is going too high too quickly? And what is happening with big tech? Why is big tech pulling back as well? And what's happening on with your fourth stimulus? I have all these details happening right now. Thank you for joining me on Mornings LA. It's a big day with a lot of details, and financial news across the board is literally going left and right. Let me make sense of it for you right now. The big issue at hand is this 10-year Treasury note. No matter what you look at it, no matter how you gauge it, the single most indicative warning signal of a potential stock market crash in advance of receiving your $14 third stimulus check is the 10-year Treasury note. The 10-year Treasury note generally was about 1% for a very long time, and then moved up very quickly in a very short period of time to 1.5. Then it went to 1.6 just a few days ago, and one day last week when the Federal Reserve's chairman, Jerome Powell, spoke, it went to 1.64 and did it again later. I believe it was on a Thursday. It's now selling at 1.61. So what does this mean for you? Janet Yellen spoke about this situation minutes ago, and her comments on ABC Morning News were basically, hey, I'm not worried. We got instruments. We're not worried that we can deal with these situations and more. But is this sort of calming of something before the storm? Or is it really indication that we need to do something right now? What's important to understand is that if this number of the 10-year Treasury note goes any faster, higher in a short period of time, you will see a market crash. A surge of the 10-year Treasury note is bad news across the board. One, it causes mortgages to go higher. Two, it causes the Federal Reserve to step in and change its process of giving you stimulus to this economy, reverting and giving less of a boost to this economy. Next, it may signal that perhaps the Democrats are putting too much stimulus into this economy too quickly. The surge of the 10-year Treasury note is distinctly the result of stimulus. There's nothing else to say. It's looking at growth It's looking at reopening, and it's looking at inflation. If you have a growing economy that's growing too quickly, the 10-year Treasury note says we're growing too quickly, so we're betting on a better economy. The Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, their comments are, you know what? I think we're doing good. I don't think we're moving too quickly. 10-year Treasury note thinks its own way, and if they are right and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury are wrong, then ultimately a stock market crashes. Here are some new comments this morning. Higher rates, less dovish central banks are now considered to be the single biggest threat for risk assets. With the passage of the U.S. fiscal stimulus package and blistering progress in vaccinations, there's a number of other key risks are falling by the wayside. This is Ralph Presser, Bank America. I think the story is becoming very clear in the tech sector. We have incredibly high valuations and the yields that have tripled in the last 3 years. You're going to see a lot of volatility in that tech sector, says Robert Conzo. The IRS, meantime, confirms that stimulus checks are on their way. They gave a statement this minutes ago. Even though the tax season is in full swing, IRS employees are worked around the clock to quickly deliver to millions of Americans struggling to cope with this historic pandemic, said the IRS Commissioner Chuck Reddick in a press statement minutes ago. So what does this mean for you and your stimulus? It means that if there is too much volatility in this market, if you see too much growth, people may not want to give stimulus. And if there's too much growth, then inflation may kick in. And if you have more inflation, your stimulus will be worth less money. It's an example of going to the market and buying for milk and eggs, and they cost a lot more money. Suddenly that $1,400 stimulus check will feel like a $1,200 stimulus check. Currently, Microsoft's trading down $1.38, Apple's trading down $1.93, Walmart's up 2, and Tesla's down 6. So the tech sector is down, and the Bitcoin is currently at its highest level ever. Nancy Pelosi, meantime, spoke overnight she spoke this morning about the fourth stimulus package and what will happen. She says that building roads and bridges and water supply systems and the rest has always been bipartisan, except when Republicans oppose it with a Democratic president. But nonetheless, we hope to have bipartisanship. This is job creating, which creates revenue, which comes back into the Treasury. And they should be the last people talking about what's too expensive for the American people. Well, Republicans responded to this talk about the fourth stimulus package this morning as well. Wyoming Senator John Barrasso also appeared on Sunday Morning News just minutes ago, and he said, I would really like to see bipartisanship on infrastructure, but they've ignored the way to do it bipartisan. He says if they'd like to take a model we came up with in the committee and the Center for Highway and Transportation, I think that's a good start. I talked with the Secretary of Transportation, Beat Patugig, about it, and I think it's a model we should move forward on transportation and stimulus. So how would this work, and what is in the fourth stimulus? And is this fourth stimulus something that clearly would cause concern among the markets? Well, House Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal, Democrat from Massachusetts, spoke this morning, and he said getting something out of the tax code is often harder than getting something into the tax code. What we did is unlikely to go away. What are they referring to? There's a lot of talks of changing the tax code to provide more stimulus, but ultimately that may not work. What's going on? Here's the chatter this morning, and you heard it for the first time yesterday. Yesterday, I told you that Cory Booker, Democrat out of New Jersey, was proposing to make the third stimulus provision of the $5,000 stimulus check, or $3,600, plus $3,000 for children 17 and newborn, a lifetime benefit. Well, guess what? While I scoffed at it and you scoffed at it, Biden wants it. A new report today says the President of the United States is considering to pay lifetime anyone under the age of 17 anywhere between $300 to $3,600 for their entire lifetime until they become an adult. Crazy? That is what's being focused on. Representative Rosa DeLauro, Democrat out of Connecticut, is the one behind it. She's looking at making this child care tax credit permanent to age 18. We've been focused on these issues for a very long time, but the moment has met us. We're ready to move forward on a number of areas that we've not in the past to be able to get that traction for universal support. I got to tell you, I got to tell you, if you are sending every child in the United States under age 18 a $3,000 to $3,600 check for the next 18 years, you better figure out where that money's coming from, because this economy doesn't have it. And suddenly, this is what could cause massive swings of the markets right away. If you don't have enough concern about the Dow and the treasuries, then you certainly should have a concern about where you would come up with money to pay $300 to $3,600 to every child for 18 years of the United States. This is not a fringe statement by the president. The new report actually states that the president of the United States is considering to making this lifetime. We've been focused on these issues for a long time, but the moment is now here. It's fair to say that the child tax credit was the most consequential but least controversial provision of the package, says one individual. That is Representative Torres. So what is Biden thinking about this? A new report says from Politico that Biden is behind doing this. Biden reportedly said Friday that he wants to make the bill change the paradigm of thinking that we should do trickle-down economics, and rather we should give money directly to children. So would this tax credit be permanent? That is what the president quietly is telling insiders, that he's considering paying children a lifetime $3,600 to $3,000 for their first 18 years of their life. What is the reaction to it? The prospect of a benefit cliff that will sock the middle class is way too unpopular for the politicians to even contemplate, says an analyst this morning. The popular way to think about this bill is as much as a way of a down payment on a wish list of progressive goals that are going to be extended well beyond the pandemic and the recession. So what does this mean? Politico claims that the child tax credit, which was expanded under the stimulus package, may be the first permanent change because Biden has told insiders this weekend he wants it permanently. On a call with White House Democrats, where the president endorsed the permanent extension, he also said the recommendation for getting it done was listen to Rosa DeLauro, according to people on the call. If you have not breathed yet, this might be the moment to breathe. Yes, for the first time you're hearing on this channel that while there's concerns on the markets about raising treasury yields at 6.4%, two times last week, but settling in at 1.61%. Imagine what the markets are going to think this coming week, based upon a political article released minutes ago that says the White House, the president, on Friday, said, you know what? I want to pay kids 18 and under lifetime $300 to $3,600 a year. Every single child in the United States should get $250 a month until they turn adults. What is Wall Street going to say? Wall Street's going to say, where are we getting this money from? This is not a little bit of deficit spending for one stimulus package. This is 18 years of stimulus. And it's 18 years of stimulus based upon only one age bracket. What I want to also make clear is that there is no other conversation in this conversation with the president and Rosa DeLauro about stimulus for anyone over 18. There's no one else in the conversation for 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds or hazard pay or adults or senior citizens or SSI and SSDI, but rather the conversation is fully about children. When did children suddenly become the need to be bankrolled for 18 years? That's what Wall Street will ask next week. Ultimately, Wall Street wants to see economic factors that make significant sense, and they also want to understand where the impact is. But if they hear that the next stimulus package just around the corner in May may provide full-time relief to children of $250 a month until they're 18 years of age, that is a big surprise. A new report also from Torres, Richie Torres of New York. He says it's fair to say that the tax credit was the most consequential but least controversial provision of the package plan. So as a moment, there's hope that'll be permanent. Really? Policies like this were good ideas before the pandemic and even more important during the pandemic. And it's incredibly important that we continue this effort in the long term because the impact it could have, says another person in the team. Wow. What a big morning it is. I have more coming up shortly with you about the 4 stimulus provisions and reoccurring stimulus checks at PUC and your pocketbook. But stay with me. First is a little bit about the community page. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big morning with a lot of questions coming from viewers. And the questions you saw during the commercial break are exactly what you would expect. Viewers are reacting to the breaking news delivered first on this channel today of concern of a Wall Street crash because of what came out of the White House in a new report today. A new report today claims that on Friday, the President of the United States specifically said, you know what? I love that $3,600 or $3,000 for children under the age of 17. I want them to get a lifetime until they're age 18. I want every American child to get $250 to $300 a month for the first 18 years of their life. Viewers were shocked by the news. And that is what could happen Monday. The political article is not a fringe article. It's actually a mainstream article that's going to get traction because there were not one, but 4 Democrats in the article cited on the record. So this is not one of those articles where people are talking off the record and there's no confirmation. Rather, the people cited in the articles were bragging that they think this is going to happen. What's Wall Street going to do? Wall Street is not going to like the news. Wall Street's going to ask, where are you going to where are you going to come up with the money of paying $250 a month for a child for 18 years? There's only one answer to the question. Massive taxes. And Wall Street doesn't like taxes. There is nothing in this economy currently that we see that can pay for this price tag. Thank you, Sheila, for the massive super chat. If you're just joining me, Wall Street's already uncertain going into the new day. Here is the Bitcoin activity this morning. Bitcoin is now at its highest level ever. You see the volatility at the bottom of the chart where that red bar is pointing upward. That's in the late weeks of February. You saw that Bitcoin pull back and now it has surged since just Friday. While the chart may look like it's an upward trend of the last few days, it really is a massive surge since Friday. What does this mean for you? Elsewhere, there is really not good news from Wall Street. That lack of good news starts with the 10-year Treasury note. The 10-year Treasury note, which governs interest rates, is tinkering at 1.61 with the upside of 1.64 in a blink. 2 times last week and went to 1.64. This impacts you so many ways. It impacts your car payments. It impacts your mortgages. It impacts The lending rate, it impacts the boss that you work for and his loan on his business. It impacts so many things. Thank you, Nanette, for the super chat. You don't want to see the 10-year treasury note grow any quickly than it has. Here's an example. This is what you need to know to start the new day. If you see the 10-year treasury note going to 1.64 next week or the week after and holding there, Wall Street's not going to like it. If you see the 10-year treasury note going to the high 1.6s, Wall Street is going to crash. If you see the 10-year treasury note taking any more significant rise, like a half, like 1.65 or 1.66, or God forbid, 1.7, you're going to see a massive market crash. It's very simple. This is what's going to happen. 10-year treasury goes up, tech and NASDAQ plummets, then other concerns kick in. Everyone will look to the Federal Reserve to relieve their pushing for stimulus, look to the Treasury to relieve their stimulus actions, and say, you're putting too much into this economy. And if they don't, the 10-year Treasury note will go higher. This is very important for you. It's important for so many other reasons. The most obvious one is forced stimulus. You won't see a forced stimulus package if the Treasury note goes out of control. If the 10-year Treasury note surges so high, it means that growth, inflation are just around the corner. We don't need more stimulus. Don't give us more stimulus. You want the 10-year Treasury note to stay relatively calm. It can move slowly upward, but you don't want a massive surge, because if it does, there won't be any more stimulus in this economy. Wall Street won't allow for it because they'll say this economy is growing too fast. Here's another factor to consider. While the Federal Reserve and Janet Yellen and myself all say the single most important factor in determining forced stimulus is unemployment numbers, ultimately, you may have a problem. And here's a problem: K-shaped curve. The K-shaped curve refers to rebounding of economy after a problem. We're starting to rebound. The question is, who's rebounding and who's not rebounding? The K-shaped curve refers to people at the top of the K who are upper class, surging and making a lot of money, and people who are middle to lower middle class dropping into the poverty level. The concern of this channel, the White House, and the Treasury and the Federal Reserve has been to provide enough stimulus so that people who are still unemployed do not fall down in the K-shaped curve. Rather, we have a V where everyone rebounds together. Well, here's the problem. And you know exactly what I'm about to say. Thank you, Nanette, for the super chat. You know exactly what I'm about to say, is that if you see enough factors of this economy rebounding, enough on the upward swing of the K, that it's going to be a very hard pitch to say, well, there is only 5% of this economy or 10% of this economy not rebounding. We need to still provide stimulus for them. It's an easy situation now because so many parts of the economy are unemployed. But if you see people who make a certain level become employed, then others may be left behind. Again, this goes back to the 10-year Treasury note. You don't want to see this 10-year Treasury note surge as the way it's been surging lately. So much happening across the board. Let me cut back now to the recap of what's happening this morning. First, millions of Americans are getting their $14 stimulus check in their bank account yesterday and Friday. More will get it on Monday. Shortly thereafter, I will be going over more about who gets it, when you get it, how you get it, and all those details. I'll also be going over third stimulus and the big money that's coming around the corner in third stimulus. All those details are coming up in the next recording. But in this recording, I want to go over to you what's really going on with this threat of Wall Street. These numbers are not particularly good. Thank you, Nanette, for the super chat. These numbers are not particularly good. And what's happening is you do not want to be left behind and not understand the significance for you. The Dow futures are up 319 right now in advance of the market's opening on Monday. The NASDAQ futures are down to 112. And while Bitcoin is surging through the roof, tech is falling again. This suggests that there's a lot of big pressures on this economy. But if you're just joining me, the most shocking development you're hearing this morning is the President of the United States on Friday told people on a conference call that he's considering making the child care tax credit, where you're paid in advance of $250 a month for every child at least under the age of 18, a lifetime benefit, which would mean that the U.S. economy would be giving $250 a month to every child under the age of 18 for 18 years. Nothing to Social Security, nothing to railroad benefits, nothing to SSI, nothing to seniors, nothing to hazard pay, nothing to people across the board that have worked their lives and have put money on the table, but rather $300 a month to people who have just been born. It doesn't particularly make sense when you look at the numbers of the situation. And the bottom line is, where is the money going to come from? Where would the money come from for 18 years of $250 a month for a person? Where is that money going to come from? There's only one answer for it, and it's taxes, and it's massive taxes. There is no system in this economy that could come up with that money. And Wall Street, when they understand the significance of this plan, when this plan becomes more broadly reported across broadcast news, they're going to be deeply concerned that suddenly this is not what they thought they were getting themselves into. Suddenly it's stimulus for some, but stimulus not for others. As we go into the top of the hour, I'll have more for you in just a second. Coming up next on this channel, I'll be going over when you might get the $14 stimulus check. That's a check tracking show coming up next. Everything about direct deposit and more. And then also what's happening in the other items and third stimulus. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. This is the time and place to make sure you hit that subscribe button. You will see over the next few days, I'm going to keep you more informed than ever before of what's going on with the financial markets. You do not want to be left behind. You do not want to be left understanding situations, and you want to understand where money is going and where it's not coming. As we go into the 10 o'clock hour, stay with me as Mornings LA continues.